What club was that at?
That was admit that a lot of people don't even realize that.
I've called her. She hasn't responded. I've called her more than a few times.
But the Zulu Nation, I'm like, what the hell is this? I know nobody know what I'm talking about. You'll leave me on the island by myself. I don't know what the hell Bishop's talking about. That's what y'all do. Then after class, yeah, I knew what you were talking about. I just don't want to be caught out there. The hell is this? Get on my damn nerves. So read that again, 31.
Hey, Shalom, Israel, Most High in Christ blessed. This is Captain Ezra.
And this Officer Homicide.
This is 15 minutes with the captains. We're going to go over a quick subject right quick. I wanted to get into this topic of exercise, because we read about it in, let's actually get it. We read about this in 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 8, but I want to get a true understanding of what's being spoken about. Let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 8.
This is the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 8. For bodily exercise profiteth little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having promise of the life that now is and of that which is to come.
So what we want to do is we want to put this in the proper context. What is this being talked about? Are they actually talking about exercising and doing push-ups and, oh, I ran a mile today? Is that what Paul was going into when he wrote this? No. Let's get to understanding. So first off, we got to start here. We got to understand who is he talking to. This letter is written to Timothy. So now we have to understand what is he trying to convey to Timothy. Now let's go to Acts chapter 16 and 1. Let's get that. This is going to help us understand why he's talking to Timothy the way he's talking to Timothy.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 16 and verse 1. Then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there, named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek.
So Timothy's father grew up in the Greek customs. So this is why he's saying certain things to Timothy, and that's for a reason. His father coming through the Greek customs, he's going to pass those customs on to his son. His father was an Israelite, but he came through the Greek customs. So let's understand what those were. Let's go to 2 Maccabees 4. And we're going to start in verse 7. Let's get that.
This is the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 4 and verse 7. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhanded to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents.
Come on.
Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise and for training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochus.
So he wanted to set up a place of exercise, and he wanted to get our people to go into that place of exercise and go into that custom. All right, so let's look into this a little bit. Let me get that ancient Olympic Games. I got an article on that. Let's see that real fast. All right, read this.
Welcome to the ancient Olympic Games. From boxing contests with no weight classification or point scoring to chariot racing, where danger lurked on every corner. It is easy to see why an ancient games enthralled the Greeks for so long. Here we give you the essential lowdown, highlight our favorite facts.
All right, so we're going to scroll down. I want you to scroll down to where it says, but first, here are our 10 favorite facts. I want to start with that. And let's blow that up.
But first, here are our 10 favorite facts to get you started. All athletes competed naked.
Oh, my goodness. All athletes competed naked. So no matter what you was doing, you fighting, you wrestling with somebody, you doing whatever you're doing, and you got to do it naked. It's like, look, you won, bro. Listen, I give up. That's it. You won. I don't even care what we're doing. Put this back up.
Wrestlers and pankration, a sort of mixed martial arts which combine boxing and wrestling. Competitors fought covered in oil.
So not only are you naked, now you got to get oiled up. And y'all can leave it on the screen. You ain't got to take it off to put it to me. So now, not only are you going to wrestle and fight somebody naked, now you got to be naked and oiled. That's like they used to have that back in the day, not in my day, but back in the day I heard of it, where they would have women wrestling in oil. And it's like, what the heck kind of stuff is this? But this is what these brothers was doing. And it's the fashion. Jason, like, I'm bringing us over to that. And our people like, yeah, all right, off race. We gonna go wrestle naked. What else? I want to just get a couple of them. What else?
Corporal punishment awaited those guilty of a false start on the track.
So if you tried to get an early start, it wasn't just, all right, they're going to start over. No, they beat you. You got beat. Then you're going to start over. Go ahead.
There were only 2 rules in pankration: no biting and no gouging.
So you only got these 2 rules. You just can't bite and you can't go for somebody's eyes. That's anything else goes. Everything else goes.
Boxers were urged to avoid attacking the on display male genitals.
But it wasn't against the rules. They just said they urged them not to do that. Don't do that. But who knows? Somebody had to still did it because it wasn't against the rules. But I just wanted y'all to see. I want you to see that this is the types of things that Timothy grew up around. He grew up around these things. He grew up around this type of behavior and these types of acts. So this is where he's coming from, and this is how his mind is built. So now we understand that. Let's go to that next article, the ancient Olympic arts. Let me get that one. Or is that let's get the next article. All right, let's look at this article. Let's find out about pankration or pankration. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that, but let's take a look.
Pankration. Pankration, which literally means all force, is a combination of wrestling and boxing. It was a dangerous sport in which everything was permitted except biting, gouging, stabbing with your fingers in your opponent's eyes, nose, or mouth, and attacking the genitals. Just as in the other combat sports, umpires stood ready to punish offenders. All holds from wrestling and all blows from boxing could be used. The danger of getting wounded was nevertheless smaller than the boxing because pankratists normally didn't wear hard gloves. As with wrestling, there were 2 forms: upright pankration, in which you lost upon touching the ground 3 times, and ground pankration, in which you could fight on the ground and lost only by submission.
And they're giving you some images of what that looked like. So inside the images, what you see is in the top left, you see 2 naked men wrestling on the ground, butt naked. But what you don't see is you don't see that they oiled up. So you can't see the oil. All right, then in the other picture you see men with one on the ground in the submissive state and another one over top of him, and they in the same thing, naked fighting. So when we put all of these things in mind, we go back to what the whole situation is. When we read in 1 Timothy 4:8, it says, bodily exercise profiteth little. He's saying this to him for a reason, because now you look at the time frame. Well, that time frame was about 215 BC. The letter to Timothy was about 59 AD. So this is like 275 years taking place between that time period back with Jason and this time period now with Timothy. So now our people have been steeped in the Greekist fashions, just like Jason started us on. But now let's go back to Acts. Let's go back to Acts 16 and let's read 1 again. Let's read 1 and 2.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 16, and verse 1. Then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek, which was reported of by the brethren that were at Lystra and Iconium.
So he was well reported of by the brethren over there, right? So, but we had an understanding that he was a Greek and he was well reported of. Okay, but why was Paul writing this to him? Why did he write this to him? Go back. Let's see this again. Let's go back to Timothy. Let's go back to Timothy. Let's get an understanding of why would Paul write these specific things to him? Because that's what it was. This was specific instructions to Timothy. Let's get 1 Timothy 5 and let's get verse 22.
This is the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 5 and verse 22. Lay hands subtly on no man, neither be partakers of other men's sins. Keep thyself pure.
So he told him, listen, don't go suddenly laying hands on a man. Don't do that. Why is he telling Timothy this? He's telling him this. Why? Because he knows his background. He knows that he was raised up in the Greekish fashions. He knows that his tendency is to get physical. Why? Because that's the way he was raised up. He came through those things. He saw that all his life. And he like, listen, don't do that. Don't go that way. 1 Timothy 3 and 1. Watch this.
1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 1. This is a true saying. If a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work.
So again, he's writing this to Timothy. He's, listen, if you desire the office of a bishop, you desire a good work. Read.
A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous.
Wait a minute. He says not a striker and not a brawler. He told him, listen, he had to point out to him specifically, listen, you can't be a striker, brother. You can't be a brawler, brother. Don't do those things. He's letting Timothy know, listen, you can't roll like that, because he knows who he's talking to. He knows how this person's mind works. He knows that instantly his first action is going to be what? To put hands on you suddenly. You said something, what? That is what it means. And he going to put his hands on you, not you. What, you want to argue about the scripture? Oh, really? Let's get some more. Let's see. Let's go to 2 Timothy 2 and 23.
This is the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2 and verse 23. But foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strifes.
Why did he tell him that? Why? Because he's like, listen, somebody going to argue with you in the scriptures and you going to put your hands on them. Don't even get into them arguments with them in the scriptures. If you can explain what it means, and then that's it. Give them the understanding and then keep going. Because if you keep getting pulled into those situations, you're going to put hands on somebody. And I'm trying to tell you, do not do that. He's trying to build Timothy up so he can overcome the thing this thing that has been ingrained in him. He's trying to help him overcome that. That's why he's building him up with these letters. So when he's writing to Timothy about exercise profiteth little, he's letting you know, listen, it's not about your physicality. It's about your mentality. It's about your patience with the people. It's about you knowing how to gird yourself up in a way to where you can't get pulled into these situations where now your instincts take over and you want to go back to getting physical. So this is what he's trying to do. He's trying to build Timothy up. So watch this. Let's get some more. Strife. It says, avoid foolish questions that cause strife. Let me get that definition of strife.
Strife, angry or bitter, disagreement over fundamental issues, conflict.
Mm-hmm. So conflict, that's what it is an angry or bitter disagreement, which does what? It's a conflict. Now you have a problem. Guess what? If you have strife, it can escalate into what? Violence. violence. And that's why he's telling them, listen, don't let yourself get sucked into that, Timothy. Don't do that. Now, go back to 1 Timothy 4 and 8. Let's read that again.
This is the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 4 and verse 8.
So now we understand this is a specific message that he's given to Timothy. Read.
For bodily exercise profiteth little.
Bodily exercise profits little, Timothy. Don't worry. Don't use that as the way you're going to push this truth forward. Don't do it by your physicality. Read.
But godliness is profitable unto all things.
Do it by godliness. Move with godliness. Come on.
Having promise of the life that is now is, and of that which is to come.
Right. Now get Titus 2 and 11. Watch this. The book of Titus, chapter 2 and verse 11.
This is the book of Titus, chapter 2 and verse 11.
He's about to live, just right here, he's going to learn how do I live godly, because he's telling them, don't worry about the exercise, worry about living godly. This is how.
For the grace of God that bringeth salvation hath appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world.
So how do we do it? We have to deny ungodliness and our worldly lust. We got to live soberly. We got to live righteously. We got to live godly. This is the same things he told him in what? When we just read 1 Timothy chapter 3. He told him all of these same things already. This is live like this. Put off the striking. Put off the brawling. Put off the exercise and worrying about your physicality. Don't let yourself get pulled into violent situations because of strife. Don't do that, Timothy. And that's what he's telling him, but he also telling that to us as well. Now get that in Hebrews 5 and 12, because we got to understand that this wasn't just for Timothy. That's why it's here for us to read. Now we can grow from it. We can learn from it. Come on.
This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 5 and verse 12. For when for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God.
Come on.
And are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat.
So when we come into this as babes. So that means we have to learn from scratch like a babe. And guess what? We're not ready for some of these strong meat, some of the deep understandings and dark sayings. But come on.
For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe.
Come on.
But strong meat belongs to them that are full of age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised.
Have their what?
Senses exercised.
This is the exercise that we have to focus on. We have to get our senses exercised. We have to know how to read spirits. We know how to read our own spirit when we're in a bad place, or know how to correct ourselves in the spirit, right? So that's when we have our senses exercised. This is the exercise that we should be focused on. I mean, and that's not to say something's wrong with bodily exercise. Don't misunderstand that. We all need that. I know I need it. But this is the spiritual exercise that we need. This is what we need to move forward, right? So finish that out.
To discern both good and evil.
This is how we're able to discern both good and evil. And that doesn't mean, the first thing we always do is we say good and evil, we're looking at everybody else. No, how do I determine when I'm in an evil mind state and I'm in a good mind state? Because I have my senses exercised and I'm able to determine on my own, I can determine how I'm moving and how I'm thinking. You understand? So let's end it on this note. Let's get 1 Timothy 4 and 7. Let's end it on this. Let's end it here.
This is the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 4 and verse 7. But refuse profane and old wives' tales.
Again, he's telling Timothy to refuse old wives' fables. He's like, refuse these things. It's profane. Don't let yourself get sucked into these things. Come on.
and exercise thyself rather unto godliness.
Build yourself up in the spirit. You don't let yourself get sucked into foolish arguments. Don't let yourself get sucked into old wives' tales and fables and people coming with stuff, because that's what happens. And it happens to us too. And that's like I see brothers and sisters going back and forth on social media with people coming into the clubhouse and they want to go back and forth with people. Listen, you gotta follow the same thing, just like we read right here. Read it again.
But refuse profane and old wise fables, and exercise thyself rather unto godliness.
So we all have to exercise ourselves unto godliness. And with that, we'll say shalom.
Shalom.
What is a nation?
Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you. It's nation time.
And finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord, His word, His word.